For anyone who knows anything about the gambling industry, it should not be a surprise what the FBI announced today. Two massive mafia-linked gambling and sports rigging operations. The FBI unveiled those investigations today, and they led to an arrest of over 30 individuals, with more expected to surrender. Among those facing charges are current and former NBA figures, as well as members of 4 New York crime families. And in the case of the sports rigging operation, the defendants have been accused of exploiting insider information to bet on NBA games in what the U.S. Attorney's Office described as, quote, one of the most brazen sports corruption schemes since online sports betting became widely legalized in the United States, end quote. Again, we shouldn't be surprised. Joining me now to discuss this, Dr. John Kindt, Professor Emeritus of Business Administration at the University of Illinois. Professor Kindt has studied and been outspoken on the issue of gambling for the past 4 decades. Professor, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for all that you do to inform the public. You do an excellent job. And I should say that 98 to 99% of academics are against gambling in all of its forms. And we're actually, we don't receive any honorariums or consultant fees. So this is a real bipartisan, nonpartisan issue. Everybody should be on board. And what you've mentioned is just the tip of the iceberg. This is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Now, are you surprised at all, Professor, that this has happened?
No, I'm not surprised, and I've held this up before, but you testified before the National Gambling Impact Study Commission 30 years ago. You and your colleagues, you were prophets on this. It said, do not let this sports gambling spread. Keep it off of cell phones. You cannot control gambling on the internet. Keep it criminalized. And of course, we're in a totally different world now.
Yeah.
And let me just say, the smartest thing that President Trump could do is call for a new National Gambling Impact Study Commission. It's been 30 years since the last one. Second thing he can do to help all of this cheating that's going on in professional sports is to call for the establishment of a new Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act. The original one was overturned by the Supreme Court on a technicality, but it was promoted by Bill Bradley, the NBA legend, who back in 1992 said, this is going to happen if we don't have this legislation in place. And the final thing is the Obama administration gutted U.S. Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy's Wire Act, which was against organized crime. And if President Trump would simply get DOJ to reinstate that, that would go a long way to helping remedy these types of problems.
You know, Professor, anyone who knows anything about the gambling industry, going back to the Revolutionary War, where they sold the lottery tickets, knows the corrupt nature of gambling. But lay out for us, because this is something, as you said, people warned once professional sports mixed with gambling, it was ripe for corruption. Unpack a little bit for our viewers and listeners what happened in these two cases.
Well, I don't want to get into them in too much depth. I'd rather concentrate on how to remedy the situation or to make the situation better. These cases are going to unfold, and anything that I would say might impact on the cases themselves. And I think that's why you saw during the press conference today, the head of the FBI and the other officials who were very circumspect in what they said about these cases, because they don't want to prejudice anything that's going to happen with these.
But let me stop you right there, Professor, because I think this just shows the nature of it, that you have NBA players who were taking themselves out of the game, and it was basically throwing the bets. I mean, remember when Pete Rose, when he was playing and he betted and he was disgraced for that, and he was, by the way, I was a big Cincinnati fan growing up. And he was one of my heroes there on the baseball field. But this is the nature of this is human nature. I mean, history has repeated this over and over again, and we have government facilitating this corruption. So why should we be surprised when it happens?
We shouldn't. Those who forget the lessons of history are condemned to relive them. That's George Santayana. I remember that during a gambling congressional hearing back in 1994. And I remember in 1995 actually sitting behind a member of organized crime as he testified before the House Judiciary Committee, which passed the U.S. National Gambling Impact Study Commission. I mean, this is going to get worse and worse unless we stop it now.
Okay, let's talk about, we just have 2 minutes left. Let's talk about remedies. What can Congress do? What can the administration do?
President Trump, smartest thing he can do is pass a new National Gambling Impact Study Commission, pass a new Professional Amateur Sports Protection Act, reinstate Robert F. Kennedy, U.S. Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy's Wire Act against organized crime, and place 5 really big restrictive regulators on the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, because right now the companies are, you see gambling everywhere and gambling on anything. The reason they're getting away with this is because they found a loophole with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. And my colleagues and I wrote about this back in 2021, 2022, said we've got to stop this or it's already on everybody's cell phone. You know, click your phone, lose your home. It's in your, click your mouse, lose your house. And they're targeting kids. Let me just, Newsweek gets it. They're targeting kids, and they've got these new gotcha games. The regulations are ridiculous. They're window dressing.
Right.
Let me ask you a quick question. Do you know who Stephen Paddock was?
I don't recall.
Stephen Paddock is the biggest mass murderer in the history of the United States. You remember Columbine, you remember Sandy Hook, but you don't remember Stephen Paddock. Killed 59 people, wounded 413. He was the shooter in Las Vegas.
Oh, that's right. Right.
The industry is great at covering all this up.
All right, we're out of time. My bet is that Congress doesn't tackle this, but we could get the administration to do something. That is, if you're taking wagers, but I wouldn't recommend you do that. Professor,
check out momsagainstgambling.org and stoppredatorygambling.org.
Professor Kindt, thank you so much.